Hello, everyone, and welcome to another XTIVIA live session, MDM and Data Governance Summit, New York City 2018, The State of the Industry, presented by Jim Orrison. My name is Alex Killian, and I'm the video editor and digital media specialist here on XTIVIA's marketing team. Before we jump into the live session this morning, I want to tell you a little bit about our company. Since 1992, XTIVIA has established a proven reputation as a company that delivers leading-edge IT solutions and technology support for our clients' specific requirements. Our service areas include mobile app development, BIDW, CRM, ERP, data management, web portal, digital experience, and EIM services and solutions. XTIVIA's success stems from a demonstrated ability to deliver deep expertise via professional services, empowering our clients to leverage their chosen technology successfully, competitively, and profitably. And XTIVIA has offices in Colorado, New York, New Jersey, Missouri, Texas, and Virginia. So a little bit of background on our live session this morning. The annual MDM and Data Governance Summit in New York City was well attended with 500 participants from over 200 companies seeking to learn from industry leaders and other corporations on their journey into data governance and master data management. And today we will be joined by Jim Orrison, Director of EIM for XTIVIA. Jim has a passion for solving business problems first and foremost. For the last 20 years, his focus has been on understanding the underlying business problem, abstracting the issues and options, gaining consensus on solutions, and then delegating the execution to see teams celebrate the successes that can be achieved. And Jim has solved countless unique problems that have helped organizational performance, customer satisfaction, and product quality. So today, Jim is going to answer some questions for us about the MDM and DG industry analysis, keynotes, conference tracks, and some other takeaways from the conference if we have time. Jim, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Alex.
So let's jump right in. First question for you. What was the high-level industry assessment provided at this conference?
Well, as you would imagine, with a national identity of this MDM conference, they really are founded by the MDM Institute. So the chief researcher, Aaron Zorns, sort of gave a state of the industry. It's a survey that he sort of does to sort of determine the health and direction, trajectory. And part of this is to understand with most conferences like this that are vendor agnostic, is to know is something in an early stage, an adoption, a maturation, or really a decline in the industry. So, but the statistics are clearly is that there is an adoption going on with data governance and MDM. Basically, the volume of money spent by corporations for tools with regard to data governance and MDM has doubled in the last 4 years from 1.2 to 2.5 billion. Services is running around $4 billion in revenue. The only reason why you talk about magnitude of dollars is that companies are seeing an ROI or expect an ROI to that type of magnitude of investment. So the biggest thing that they also sort of indicated was that in the industry is that there's probably a 3x spend of how much people spend for services versus the tools. But there's more than the components around the starts and restarts. One of the things that Aaron highlighted to us was that a lot of companies are restarting their data governance initiatives. And that may cause people as a reason to pause, but part of it is take the lessons learned. People jumped into tools too early, and they didn't have the business unified on their mission. So that's the reason why there were some good-sized companies that was in this conference that are actually starting to think, how do we take the assets we've got now and make them better? So to a point is that these guys, the early adopters are learning how to adjust for really the late adopters to take advantage of that lesson learned. The other thing that Aaron sort of helped highlight, and I sort of confirmed it along the way with my own experiences, there's really 4 major vendors that will represent they do it all. IBM, Informatica, Oracle, SAP. Basically, everyone's acknowledged they are the big 4, but they grown through acquisition. There's no good or bad as whether you grow it organically or you grow your capabilities through acquisition. with the exception that you may represent the market, you're a one-stop shop, but reality, you're like a mall. You can go to the mall, but you still got to go to a bunch of storefronts to get everything you want. So think of the big vendors as that one-stop place. You may go to the parking lot of the mall, but you still got to do distinct shopping and decision-making along the way. There's a duology that's going on in the industry, that there really is the mega vendor, and there's a lot of boutique type of capabilities. Don't be mistaken, the boutiques are small. They are very substantial organizations, and what they founded themselves on is very good. And Aaron highlighted, and I would much rather you read his papers. We will post that ourselves as to when this comes out, as to what service and advice he's given to those vendors. But the big thing is he gave us a left behind, and I do agree with him on this, is that a lot organizations, corporations want to see customer data management, product information management, reference data management covered by their data programs, but no vendor does it well. And he really said, no matter how you go to market, you need to think independently of it. If you want the synergy of working with one vendor because of their licensing or their knowledge base, great, but you need to treat those programs separately to be successful. And to me, that was a very telling component of what he is looking at the market the next 2-3 years.
All right, awesome. So we know the conference keynotes tend to really set the tone for a specific conference. What would you say were the emphases of the keynotes at this conference?
So they probably had about 4 keynotes along the way, which is powerful because you're really getting either industry experts or corporate experts to come forth and sort of highlight out. And things I sort of took down, there's dozens of insights those keynotes highlighted, but I'll accentuate 3 back to you. 1 is around business, 2 is around technology. The business side is organizations clearly expect to get more value out of their data. And so therefore, it isn't just talking about how do I get the data, how do you actually change your behaviors to do so? MasterCard had a very powerful message and presentation about how first they have to respect the value and the discretion of their customer data, but they're actually bringing it into where they have a research relationship with universities and others who want to do research on their data. So it's an innovation center. And you do apply to go be a part of this, and they are actually participating. Now, MasterCard does get the benefits of research done with the volumes of information that's coming through, but they also are helping the academic community further and better insights to customer behavior or further better the technologies to help them with this. So I was very eye-opening. I think part of my calling card would be if you're in a Fortune 100 type of company, having this level of innovation center for your data was a novel concept. And obviously MasterCard's been at it for a couple of years, and I think it's proven out that they're on the right track. Technology-wise, the keynotes underscored is that 1 is that about graph databases. Now that may make some people say, what the heck do you mean by a graph database? Just picture, if you will, some simplicity of a UI and query mechanism for the business user. Now, there's still a technology under it, but the beauty of it is that it helps one with big data, Internet of Things, and the domain data, so people have a different way. There'll be a lot more buzz for the next 2-3 years. If a vendor's talking to you about graph databases now, listen to them, but be careful being the innovator with them, because you really want to make sure if you don't have a key case why you need to be the innovator, being more an adopter in a year or 2 probably is more the wise choice I heard from the keynotes. Last one's around cloud economies. Cloud is compelling, it's proven, it's valuable. Challenge is that a lot of the MDM and data management components are trying to move their solutions to the cloud. They're not necessarily making their products cloud native. Be wary of vendors and make sure you understand, do your due diligence before you adopt their cloud platforms, is what I heard in the keynotes. And part of this is forcing, but if customers or corporations are more judicious on that decision, it's going to force the vendors to be more cloud native. And the other advice to it is that because of things like GDPR, regulatory constraints, California's got some privacy laws coming in 2020, that really the customer data management space is a little trepidatious to jump into too quick if this is your first endeavor in data management. Focus on your product information, focus on your reference management, get it to be more of a cultural change with your organization. Customer is second, unless there's really a compelling case why customer has to be first, especially when it gets to cloud. you can do on-prem with customer cleanly, well, and organized and be compliant to those regulatory statutes on-prem, but not cloud. That's the challenge I heard in the keynotes.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of exciting stuff in the future, and a lot of advice on how to deal with it. So
right.
we were a gold sponsor of the data governance track. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the track's covered?
Yes, I'd love to. Well, there are three real tracks going on: product information, master data management, data governance. So there you have the large audience for the keynotes. People broke down to the real specialties. I understood the other ones had very good speakers and presentation, but I could really speak mostly to the data governance track because that's the one that I was hosting and helping introduce the speakers and get to know them and make sure that their papers were presented, and basically, more importantly, people were engaged around the facilitation of Q&A. The data governance track had some extremely good takeaway nuggets of truth. It basically is that we'll get the conference proceedings out that you can see more details to it. But for starting points, like Lelina Molina from General Motors covered things about what they were doing around their financial organization, General Motors, and data governance. So think about clearly that you're talking about a multinational, Fortune 50 type of corporation that she was representing, and what they had to do to get consistency and definition toward their data. So her case study was good, but one of the things I came out was that people seem to obsess about finding the gold source of data, but she really says the real objective needs to be finding the sources of gold to your data. So instead of worried about all of the edge cases of things need to be perfect, what is the things that's really standing out in front of you, and be able to pursue them and make sure that is a benefit, because your data governance, your master data, other things are always going to be an evolving process and not a single term project. So again, she emphasized the way that General Motors bought into this new culture was by that mindset that we weren't trying to solve out all the edge problems. We're looking for the core problems that add value. Other things I saw in here, actually, I saw it in the MDM track, but I saw it here also in the data governance. There are several case studies presented around healthcare. It's not to say, Alex, that healthcare is now the emerging, you've got to go do this in data governance. I think healthcare is starting to see benefits around governance and around master data, now that they've sort of moved through a lot of the other medical necessity EMR type credentials or criteria that the Medicare acts and Obamacare sort of put into the organizations. They're moving to what's next. So multi-care health systems out of Tacoma, Washington's the third largest non-for-profit healthcare provider in the country. So if you think about that as a problem statement, their component, what they sort of applied first was provider data. Is that if you have the credentials of physicians who are part of your network but not dedicated to your network, are they really authorized to do what they do in the facilities to your patients? That is what they sort of started on, and they really are focused on a modern approach to that data. And they focus on Six Sigma and normal project management disciplines. I think the real takeaway I took on that one was, simply put, just because you're doing something radically different in your organization around MDM and data management, still stick to what you're good about your disciplines about software development lifecycle and SDLC. Focus on the way that you really make sure and focus toward agile deliveries. Is that by trying to always do a big bang, someone going to the woods for 18, 24 months, you may not end up where you want to be. If you're going out and every 2 months having a targeted delivery, that's how they got their provider data to be incredibly valuable, clean, and robust. And they really had a lot better outcomes with their patients by having this information, and more importantly, timely deliveries. The last thing I want to sort of bring out is Doctors Without Borders that did similar type of thing. You're talking about a large international volunteer, I won't call it completely volunteer, but it definitely is well-funded, but the physician side is volunteer, but they are highly responsive to needs in the field. How does data governance help that responsiveness? Is that they were trying to do their product delivery and such from distribution centers in Bordeaux, Brussels, Amsterdam, but they needed to be responsive for what the field wanted. The field was always used to being able to be very nimble and quick. If you have major disease outbreaks, how does your data sort of be in there? What they really did, and the thing that I really did, is how to improve that supply data. So this was some very powerful stuff that people sort of had. I think it was tangible, and I think people sort of learned from it. The last two things I'll bring out that came out in the tracks is case studies. It's that the Gulf Agency, which is really the Arabian Gulf out of Dubai, is a major shipping services organization and helping those who are in shipping containers, etc., have a quantifiable approach to get their data around. And they actually, even though I've been with a lot of organizations, I hear others do the framework upon how to do data governance, they had a maturity model and a quantifiable approach to it that made a world of sense that helps the executives know you are here, because that's one of the things that is uncomfortable to decision makers, is no one, do they actually follow suit to where they're going, and are they aware where the projects are? And the last thing I'd just like to mention is I did get to co-present a case study with regard to Hertz. Lynn Troyce, who is the manager of data quality and data governance, presented with us as a business opportunity. But one thing that I want people to be thinking of, this aspect of data management, data governance, is about of the business, by the business, for the business. When you really center these initiatives around the business and not IT, your success is far better assured. IT delivers it, business defines it. Those are the things that we really got out of this track.
Wow, that's definitely powerful. So
thank you.
Are there any other takeaways you had from the conference that you want to share with us today?
Yeah, Alex, I mean, there's a world of takeaways. So I'll try to keep it down to about 3 real points I'd like to make for our audience. Is that one, everyone there it is sort of like a religious revival. People are going to be talking about it because they all, came to New York, try to learn from each other. So everyone advocates data governance is critical to successful MDM and data. And however, historically, data governance is treated as a project. It's capital funded. People spin it up. They want the results. They want the project to come to a conclusion. Well, to start, that is good, but governance should be a lifestyle. And that's part of what was underscored all the way from Aaron Zorn's industry analysis, all the way to these case studies like MasterCard. It isn't a one and done type of aspect. MasterCard is investing a strong amount of money to making sure that they are always going to stay ahead and not let their data become an unused, or more importantly, a poorly managed asset to them. The other thing is that it's kind of funny. One of the discussions that came up, it says, well, most people want to motivate project teams and say failure's not an option. Well, that sort of said, you hold this ground and don't retreat if you're in a battle. Well, sometimes it's better to, step back and find better defensive ground. Failure is an option, but it's not one we would choose. Unfortunately, it is a result. It's based upon the choices. So think carefully on the choices and how they will resolve out through the organization. And culture is one of the biggest reasons why programs like this don't get adopted well. You have to be very methodical about how you adjust and get the business bought in, and then help the culture change. And the last thing that was really insisted is that governance as a tool is the emphasis that businesses need to lay a higher expectation on the vendor organization to make sure governance is integrated to their data management tools or MDM tools. So again, is that by that insistence, you're going to have a more integrated space here over the next 2 to 5 years. So like I said, good discussions, good thoughts, and more importantly, it was a nice respite for one to really think through where they want their organization to be by adopting data governance and being the leaders within the respective organizations.
Awesome. Well, I feel like I attended the conference myself. You give us a great summary there. For more information, you can check out Jim's last live session. It's linked below, as well as XTIVIA's blog, ebooks, and success stories on XTIVIA.com. And we're available for conversations and questions around data information strategies. So please reach out if you have any questions. And don't forget that XTIVIA live sessions are happening every second and fourth Thursday of the month. So make sure and tune in for the next one and subscribe so you don't miss any of our new resources. And Jim, thank you so much for joining us and all of that super valuable information.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Alex.
And everybody have a great rest of your Thursday.